hey, look, do me a huge favor. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up button now because it just makes everything easier. Subscribe so you see everything if you like these videos. If you want to see it as soon as I drop it, hit that bell, and it's going to tell you all or personalize. You can see what kind of videos you want to see because I do make multiple different types of content. So you can personalize it, or you can hit all and see everything I put up as soon as I put it up. That's my advice to you.
Welcome to the Road to Redemption podcast with your host, Cam Williamson. Each week, Cam sets out to shatter the labels and stigmas associated with mental health awareness by giving life lessons and raw overviews of events happening around the world.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to this episode of the Road to Redemption podcast. I'm, as always, your grateful host, Cam Williamson, and today we are talking about toxic relationships. A lot of you have found my channel from my takes on the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial and how I've been able to relate my personal story and understanding to kind of what they've gone through in their lives, right? So here we go. It's not just Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. They have caught the attention of the world currently, but some of our favorite, most notable people, characters, celebrities, entertainers of all time have always kind of had a toxic counterpart. We look at characters like Harley Quinn and the Joker. We look at Bonnie and Clyde, a famous criminal outlaw couple. We look at Jax Teller and Tara from Sons of Anarchy. We look at Johnny Cash and June. We look at Romeo and Juliet from Shakespearean times. We look at kings back from Roman times who would, lose their loved one to a rival country or something, and they would become the queen of the other country, and they would have to fight to get that back. And it was, I think it was like the basis of the movie Troy. The whole war started because of a woman and like this toxic forbidden love type thing, right? So in not all cases is it a forbidden love situation. Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, where they did meet when they were also in relationships with other people. So in that sense, it was kind of a forbidden love. And let's start there. When two people aren't supposed to be together, what does that do? It's a big topic of conversation as to why opposite gender friends is always a tough situation, right? It's arguable as to whether or not it can work, but when two people aren't supposed to feel a way for each other, it's kind of, and not always, but I think in a certain type of person, it sparks this like, let me see about that. Why am I not supposed to like that? And then it almost makes you more intrigued, and that's where like that dark and mysterious personality type comes in that draws a certain type of person in, where it goes, there's something about them that I can't crack, I can't get into, I can't read, and that bothers me, or that excites me, that I got to figure that out. Whatever that is, I need to figure that out. And then you draw. I have always related to the idea of like imprinting from like the movies of Twilight. I didn't really see them as a toxic thing, because that was just super fictional, but like the idea of imprinting on someone, I think we can relate. And that's where these couples, these toxic couples, do their most damage, is in the imprinting, because there's a key moment in what was that movie called, where Harley Quinn and the Joker did the reenactment. But there's a moment where she's about to jump into the poison, and he goes, would you die for me? And she says, yeah. And he goes, but would you live for me? And that's kind of there's always that ultimatum in these toxic relationships, that it's till death. In Amber Heard, Johnny Depp situation, she got him a knife that said till death. And it's this extreme line that was written in wedding vows, till sickness and in health, till death do you part. And it's this very extreme thing, love, right? And then you get if it's not forbidden love, maybe it is completely forbidden, like in Romeo and Juliet, where it's two opposing families that you we don't do that. So a lot of people can probably relate if you're in any type of interracial couple, interreligious couple, where you guys have differing beliefs on your families, and that makes it tough on you. So sometimes you could be ostracized from your communities for having these other beliefs. If you look, I think, in the celebrity world, in the fiction world, in the criminal couple world, like Bonnie and Clyde, a lot of that comes from their upbringing is that of struggle, whether it be poverty that brings them together, like Bonnie and Clyde, or abandonment issues, like Harley Quinn had. And then the Joker seemed to have a whole mess of issues of his own. Johnny Cash comes from, a strong Christian upbringing, but he had this darkness inside of him, and then he got married and he wanted to chase bigger things, and his wife just wanted a successful home, and she didn't really have an idea as to what that looked like. And then June came in and she was in a relationship, and then it all kind of got weird between them because they imprinted on each other, and whatever that was, it negated everything else, and they chose to grow in that. And then to the outside world around them, they're these two toxic people that are living a toxic life, which can't really be argued because Johnny Cash struggled with drugs and alcohol and, stuff like that, and anger, and had a dark image to him. I mean, he was the man in black, for God's sakes. So then you get to like the Jax Tellers and the Taras of the world, where these are fictional characters, but we see ourselves sometimes in them, where there's a pivotal moment in Sons of Anarchy for Jax and Tara where the relationship is splitting apart almost the whole beginning of the show because of Jax's lifestyle and what that brings, and what kind of insecurity and feeling of uneasiness that brings to Tara. She doesn't quite know if she can deal with that, mixed with everything else, the baggage that Jax has. But then there's this key moment where Tara kind of realizes that she can never live a life without Jax because she is always tied to him in some way. He's the only thing that really allows her to feel safe and allows her to feel alive in a sense. When we first meet Tara in the show, she's in another place, and she's a doctor, and she's doing that, and then she ends up back in her home place where obviously there was just a sudden split from her and Jax. Everyone knew them as Jax and Tara. They split, and then Jax found his new baby mom, who was Wendy, who was on drugs, and ends up having his son. But that's a toxic mess from the beginning, and it's just like a time filler. Wendy never really even sorts out through the show. It's always Jax and Tara. But Jax and Tara are always fighting these speed bumps in life of other people and other relationships. Tara has a stalker from the past and a guy that she tried to date. So there's all these like karmic situations that come in. And you watch and you can connect, but then the whole time, watching whoever it is, that they would for sure be better off apart. As in, their lives would probably function in a healthier manner more consistently. But what a lot of people don't realize is there is a certain blood type of person that exists, that's not so romanticized in fiction, but we see in the Johnny Depp and the Amber Heards, where the abandonment issues of life, or the pains that have been caused by life, they cause two people to be bound together. And when they say it's till death, and I'm willing to do anything and everything to keep us together, whether that breaks laws, whether that breaks society norms, whether that breaks what, my culture thinks. And then they recognize the imprinting that's happened, and they go, no matter what I do, and you see in most of these characters, they try to run away from each other multiple times. This is where we get the idea of like twin flame connections. because oftentimes they're held apart by families, societies, whatever, their own personal issues that they just can't seem to sort out. And then there's always a reuniting that happens. And during that reuniting, it's usually where all the toxicity is realized, and everyone goes, we have to do something about this. And we see that in all these scenarios. June gets fed up with Johnny's shit. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard become toxic towards each other. Bonnie and Clyde take it till death, take it out. They go out in their blaze of glory. Jax and Tara, if you guys don't know how that ends, Jax has to remove himself from life for what he believes is the best of his kids, because his life is just caught up with him to the point where there really is no escaping without him no longer being on the planet. And he leaves, Romeo and Juliet. There's the suicide and, attempts and all this. And we look, why are we drawn to that? Because something, I don't know if it's a certain type of person, but some of us have been broken down so hard in life. And sometimes it is by the person that you feel like you imprinted with, that you can understand living outside of societal norms and stuff like that, where you go, really on a universal level, we're all following these rules and these laws as we see fit. If we don't see it necessary in the moment, we'll bend and break our own rules, morally, legally, ethically, whatever. But it just has to benefit you enough. So like if you meet that person that does that for you, that like you would, drop the lease on your house and move states away or whatever. And again, I've done that. I've done that twice with my first wife and my now wife. I just dropped everything that was going on in my life and I said, hey, I'm willing to try. Because I believe in life, nothing is more important than love. In finding that, and I think you're never going to be able to hold on to true and honest love if you're not willing to do radical shit sometimes. Here's the problem that you find with doing that. It leads you to having no real foundation or knowledge of self, because you're constantly willing to be anything and everything for everyone, but specifically just someone. And then where do you see the man in black and the darkness of Jax Teller and the Joker and the darkness that comes in these relationships? It's often coming from one person has been broken to the point where they can't really feel anymore. They don't really feel anything, but the only thing that they can feel is that other person. And while oftentimes they're not meeting the needs of the other person and they're not really even showing up for them in a lot of 3D ways, you'll notice in all these toxic relationships, there's a moment where oftentimes everything's stacked up against them. Bonnie and Clyde, I can imagine, sitting behind their cars with their guns, ready to go to war with the cops and everybody chasing after them. Jax and Tara had the moment where Tara comes up and puts her hand over Jax's shoulder right after she helps put his cut on. And there's all these little moments where they look into each other's eyes, and it's almost like non-verbally they're making a promise and fulfilling a promise of, no matter what this world stacks up against you, I'm going to be next to you for that. And I'll always help you win. No matter what lengths we have to go to, I'm going to make sure you win. It breaks our hearts when one of the characters or one of the parts of the relationship sees it as completely necessary to remove themselves from the storyline altogether. Like Jax, he had his end. He ran headfirst into a semi. June Carter died, or June Cash died, and then not long, Johnny was after that. Harley Quinn and the Joker are fictional, and they've, met demises and bounced back, so, there's that. But I think what these characters give is a sense of hope, right? That maybe one day there's this person that would be willing to lay it all on the line for us. And then we go through our lives, and you leave the movie and you feel all rushed and stuff, and then you have encounters and people let you down, and it's not dramatic. Nobody comes knocking on the door, like I said in the last one, at 2:30 in the morning to make sure that they make everything right, because their love for you is that important. So then you start to lose that hope that, and then we turn on another movie or we watch something. Look at the relationships too, the ones that oftentimes are not as dramatic, but like the ones in The Notebook with, what's her name? Allie and Noah, I think is the characters' names. And it's one of my favorite movies because you watch, and from the beginning, they were never supposed to be together. She was on a date with another guy. He forces his way in. He's hanging on the thing. He's making a big scene to get her attention. And even the next day, she's like, meh, not interested. Meh, sorry. But you could tell she's like, you got to try harder. You got to do more than this very obvious show you're doing. You got to be genuine. I need to see something that's real inside of you. So right there, you're seeing the beginning of the imprinting going on. And then Noah being willing to fight, being willing to make an ass out of himself, being willing to, where otherwise he was a quiet, shelled-in guy, he was willing to be more outwardly kind of fun, right? Well, then life happens, and they come from two different society standards. He's low class, damn near poverty, and she's upper class. And her parents go, no, you spend too much time with this guy, especially the night that they end up making love for the first time. It's all stopped. His best friend runs in and goes, hey, they're looking for you everywhere. Your parents called the police. What the fuck? They rush home, and they go, this is it. I've had enough. You're out till 2 o'clock in the morning. We're leaving. This is done. She decides to leave after putting up a little bit of a fight, and he hears her dad say he's the mom. He's trash, right? He's never going to be good enough for you. So he leaves thinking he's doing the best thing for her. She takes that as we're done, and she leaves. She goes and builds a life and gets engaged. Well, one day she ends up back, as life will do, in the hometown. He has never since fallen out of love with her, fulfills all the promises, builds the house, does everything in honor of her, still has a relationship with another woman to not, to fill the lonely nights or whatnot. And I think he genuinely cared about that woman, but I think it was obvious that the two were trying to live a half-life full of no magical spark that they had once felt, which we see. The criminal activity of Harley Quinn and the Joker, Johnny and June chasing stardom, Tara and Jax, the outlaw biker mixed with being kind of the biker queen, princess of, carrying these very hardy titles, like Noah and Allie didn't really carry any titles except just extreme love stacked up against all odds. And that to me is the most beautiful title, especially when people make it work, right? So then, and it never ends for them, right? So then she ends up back in the hometown, sees all the life dedicated to her. Essentially, she immediately feels the imprinting and is back in it, and they have a couple days of love together, and then reality hits. Oh shit, my fiance's coming back. What am I gonna do? And she panics and she runs. So again, Noah having to constantly question, like, this thing that I've dedicated my entire life to, is it all for nothing? Am I doing this? Am I killing myself for this love that doesn't exist? And that's where we see the downfall of the person or the character comes. Like Noah starts to grow his beard out. He gets real unhealthy. He's drinking a lot. And then the big fight, the pivotal moment comes in the movie where, what do you want? It's not about what he wants. It's not about what your mom wants. What do you want? And that's a true, honest moment of love. And he goes, if I'm not what you want, I'll let you leave right now. And we'll never talk again. I've lost you once. I think I can do it again. If I thought that's what you really wanted. And that's Noah's ultimate expression of love, saying, even if it killed me right now, which I think it might, I'm willing to let you turn and walk away because I love you that much. In my life, that's what I've dedicated it to, is you. So if that's what you have to do, go do that, right? And again, that's toxic in a sense, to love someone that much that you would just go, hey, fucking fine. Even though you've come into my life and you've done me dirty all these times, I still want what's best for you. So just go and do what's best for you. I'm not going to make you pay for it in any way. I'm not going to, hold this over you. Just go and be happy, but stop coming back here making me think that I'm making you happy. And then you have to, you look and you go, oh, there are games being played. There is some toxicity there. Okay. And we can relate. We grow fond of one character or the other because we see ourselves in one of those characters or one of the storylines, and that looks a little like a story I've seen in my own life, and it just hits different for us. I think in Amber Heard's situation, you see a lot of abandonment. And, Harley Quinn and the Joker, that one's hard because they're fictional. But you see the time when Harley Quinn gave up being a psychiatrist to be this criminal kind of crazy person. She saw the other side of life, and she was able to empathize with this crazy person, and not only empathize, but mirror him in a way, because he was her and on a soul level. So there's that. And then again, with Noah and Allie, even when they finally do, spoiler alert, she, goes back to her fiance, tells him everything, and shows up back at the house with all of her stuff. And then they end up living life together and having a family, but then she gets Alzheimer's and forgets everything. And he has to read her their life every single day. So it's like he spent so much time chasing her, seemingly little time having her, but he cherished every moment he had her, and he even wrote it down so none of them would ever forget. So it's a life dedicated to love. I think that's what we admire. And we see that love makes people act crazy and do wild shit if you're fighting for a real and honest love. If nobody wants to live a mundane life. Nobody wants to be the milquetoast motherfuckers down the street, So that wild, that spark, that, whatever, some of us, we live for that. We live for that hope that, some of that fiction is actually real, and that there are people that are willing to put it all on the line for not fame and riches always, but just that you're enough for that person. Not that you would want anyone or that you would ever allow someone to put themselves in danger for you, because that's not what love is, but it's that us against the world mentality. I think that we, deep down inside, we all want that. We all want someone that when everything's stacked up against you, the helicopters are flying in and you're fucked, you're going to look at each other and go, hey, even if we go out guns blazing, we're going out together. Bet. Smile, stare, let's do this. It's one of those things where I think some people in their heart are just built different. And when when you know what it is, you know what it is. So, appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Hey, look, do me a huge favor. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up button now, because it just makes everything easier. Subscribe so you see everything if you like these videos. If you want to see it as soon as I drop it, hit that bell, and it's going to tell you all, or personalize. You can see what kind of videos you want to see, because I do make multiple different types of content. So you can personalize it, or you can hit all and see everything I put up as soon as I put it up. That's my advice to you. Go over to the Road to Redemption podcast or madmentaldesigns.com. Check out all the new merch we got. This is the everything I ever wanted. This is what's on the back. It is what it is. Probably my favorite of the line. We got the house pants, which I'm currently wearing. Loving these. And yeah, you guys should check them out. You'll love them too. See you in the next one.